Well, here I am on a Tuesday, 7th of May, back with my cinnamon nut. Cheers. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, the chair is getting more squeaky. But I kind of like it. Lived in. Glad that my area got through the storm. There was more storms last night, but we were spared. Fingers, it just takes a long time to heal. Doing okay though. So, as you can see, I did not, well, you don't know, but I didn't move my board and set up for recording yesterday. I decided instead, there's no hurry. I decided instead to do another shift in the records to try to make room. If you noticed yesterday, those spines behind me, the Peter Gabriel, were a little over here, they're over there. I've shifted a bunch of stuff back into the closet. I don't like doing it. And I am going through and finding stuff to trade that I don't play. And it's like, I don't have to own this. There are some things that I don't play that it's like, I just want to keep it. And when I come across things that don't fit that, they're going into the trade pile. That's what I did yesterday. Besides yard work, mowing, before it rained. That coffee is good. Interestingly, while I was moving things, I discovered some records and there are more that are lost, and now I understand. It reminds me why they get lost. When you take chunks of record from one shelf section, and maybe it'll be like one room gets shifted into the next, things on the ends can kind of like, they're like hidden. It's like you don't see them. It's like, oh, so like I discovered my new order in the C's. I was thinking, what the heck? How did this happen? And that's how it happened. Is like I did some kind of shift with a bunch of records. Everything's gone green. Bought this when it came out. The A side is, to me, the weaker side. It's the B side, Mesh and Cries and Whispers. Those are the tracks. I really did think that Joy Division did. No, I do. No, not past tense. I do think Joy Division are great. And I think that New Order started out with some real greatness about it was just what it was. Their music is not pretentious at all. It's just nakedly what these people were at the time. And as a result, it's very powerful. So I played that. I found another one completely out of order. Is it still down here? It's supposed to be out in the other room. Sergio Mendez album that my friend Carol Rogers, I'll call her a friend, actually musical partner, ex-musical partner. She was in Brazil 77 for a long time and made several records. So I just have a couple more things to show from yesterday, but I'll go to the comments and see if anything. So yeah, I responded to this, and I'll respond here on camera. Someone asked what I thought about Manic Street Preachers. They are a band that don't have what I'm looking for. They're good, and I had their first album when it first came out, of the one with the red cover, the American version, and I could hear the whiz bang of the energy of the band, and I could see from reading about them, especially before the one member disappeared, that they must have been a very powerful and interesting live act, very on the edge. But musically, they don't have what it is I'm looking for. I've listened to, I always check them out. They just put out something new. I checked it out. I checked out the fact that Manic Street Preachers remixed Steven Wilson. They're good at what they do, kind of like Dinosaur Jr., but that's not, it doesn't resonate with me. So when I hear the Manic Street Preachers, it's like, yeah, that was all right. Kind of like Suede and a lot of bands, really. That's what I like about the idiosyncrasy of music. It's like something can be good, but just because it's good doesn't mean that I'm gonna like it. And Manic Street Preachers is a good example. That stuff just kind of, I hear it and it doesn't leave an impression. How's that? The next comment. So someone who asked, why not play with a pick like John Lodge? Well, please understand, I answered him already, but this is an example of where if you don't know, you don't know. If you've never played a bass, then you don't realize that the sound that you make with your fingers is completely different than what you do with a pick, and you cannot do with a pick what you can do with your fingers. You cannot make the bass boom and funk and have ass and bottom with a pick the way you can with fingers. Now you can with a pick, but it ain't the same. It's that human thump. So that's why when I'm in RAF, so for example, in my band RAF, the band with punk roots, I always play with a pick in this band. Always have from the beginning. There's been a few rare times when I've tried to play this music with my fingers. The bass player from Napalm Death comes to mind, who has really fast fingers, and he makes it work. I have found that this is part of what gives this music an edge, is I'm playing it with a pick. If you listen closely, bass players, you'll notice that it gives it an edge that is blunted when I play with my fingers. So I'm glad that I'm glad to explain that. It's not the same, not at all. Completely different sounds, and both have their purpose. They sure do. International Jazz Day, I didn't know. I don't keep up with stuff like that. I am not into conspiracy theories, Janata. I am not. I am interested in observing and knowing and trying to understand what's going on in the world. I dislike how the media and however it got into the public's way of digesting information. I think it was the use of the word conspiracy is used to put people off from investigating or learning more about real stuff. I don't like that word. I'm not into conspiracy theories. I don't read certain people. No. I'm familiar with shit, but I think for myself, okay? So no, come on, Dereck, no. This is meant lightly, but see, to me, it's not something to joke about. if anything, that's my position, is that as a people, as a conglomerate, humanity is really stupid. And I personally get irritated with how the knee-jerk response to everything is to make a joke. Can't we do better than that? So that conspiracy word angers me. There's it puts people off from investigating and learning more. That's my response. I am not into that at all. I just want to know what the fuck is going on. Yeah, Phil Manzanera. Yeah, with his international roots. I've got his several of his solo albums. So yesterday, the volume of the video was up louder. I can only assume that it was attenuated because I had opened up Zoom and made that video on Zoom. But there's no adjustments in Zoom, and my volume adjustments that I have access to are all the way up. So we'll see how the volume is today. While moving things around, I came across records that I'm trading, and here's one that I'm not. It makes the cut, and it's like, it makes me wonder, well, this is one that's totally lost. I've never heard anything about this record. The Invisible Dystopia. This is 80s, an 80s band throwing back to the 60s. There's a whole lot of Beatles on here. And there's jangle, and then there's psychedelia. They just mixed it all up. I like that about the 80s, when people were just throwing shit at the wall to see what would happen. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Manic Street Preachers as a band are much tighter than this and really powerful. But I would be interested to hear that Manic Street Preachers do some of this material. There's some cool songs on here. Reminded me of the Beatles a couple times. That's saying something in a good way. And I didn't look, well, when I looked it up on Discogs, I found nothing. The Invisible on Midnight Music, which is a label I thought interesting back in the 80s. They have a couple things. This I pulled, I haven't played it yet, and I don't think I need to. Ipso Facto out of Minnesota. I watched a Minneapolis Sound documentary again last night. I've watched it before, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like once I started watching it as I was working on my records, it, kept catching my interest. And Ipso Facto they called themselves world beat, but there's a lot of reggae in this. Now there's a personal connection. It's a little obscure because in the 90s, I was in this reggae band called Righteous Vibration. And we made a connection to this band. We almost ended up with one of the McFarlanes in our band. I think it fell apart because of drugs, to be honest with you. But I had that personal connection with this band. Almost played with these guys. The Minneapolis documentary was cool because, I'm part of that scene. I played up at the 7th Street Entry, and with many Minneapolis bands, the Wallets, the Phones, Ipso Facto. Can't even remember all the bands from that area I played with, as well as playing up there. So yeah, I was getting into some Finnish music recently with Jukka Gustafsson, and so this kind of jumped out at me in the titles. Another band from Finland, Tabula Rasa, Akidian Tansi. Now, I don't speak the language, but I love this music, and it's a unique sound. This music from Finland, like Wigwam and some other people, it has a unique sound. Fantasia is another band that comes to mind. At times, it's like there's something kind of, almost like something you'd hear in church, but not gospel, but something pastoral, and then not so much classical, but maybe folk. I love the melodiousness of the music. This is real good. Tabula Rasa. Great artwork, too. Comes with a 7-inch, too. I didn't play this yesterday. Svart is a good label. Svart is a good label. This was so good that I had played side 1 twice all the way through. Just really melodious, beautiful. Like I said, I have no idea what they're saying. Sometimes that's better. This is sitting out because I ran out of, I was going to try and fold in G's that I've bought or that have been sitting out. And I ran out. It's like I'm all, So sitting out here, I haven't played it, but I'll talk about it. It's a Johnny Griffin album, a blowing session, Johnny Griffin. Johnny Griffin is one of the greats sax players in jazz. He is one of the greats, and I am happy to say that I can call him uncle. We're not related by blood, but he and my dad, James Red Higgins, were raised almost like brothers. And I have some fond memories of Johnny as a kid. I have several memories of Johnny Griffin. One in particular, I bet you he tried to help my dad move further along in music because my dad was good, but my dad was a hothead and had a lot of dysfunctional behaviors that interfered with his ability to just do business. I bet you Johnny tried to help in that sense. There's a picture of, is it Johnny with Lee Konitz and my dad by a touring bus. I think that's the picture. I don't have it. My sister does. But I have one particular memory of Johnny when he came to see us in Omaha, and he gave me a toy. He must have had toys for all the kids. I can't imagine him just giving me a toy. But I sure remember the toy that he gave me was a little yellow truck. And he insisted on us calling him Uncle Johnny. He and my dad were very close. So that's my Uncle Johnny Griffin. And I spoke to him shortly before he died. I called him long distance. He was living in Germany. He didn't remember me. Of course, he remembered my dad. He remembered the kids. He couldn't remember us specifically. So there's Johnny. I'm just kind of babbling about stuff, and the time just goes so quickly. Other records sitting out that are not, there's no room to put them away is Peter Michael Hamel, Selected Pieces, ambient. Some would call it new age. Some would call it spiritual. I'd go more spiritual. If you don't know that stuff. Anything else? Oh, here it is, yeah. So the Sergio Mendez and the New Brazil 77. The lady right in the middle, Carol Rogers, she signed my album. We go all the way back. Her mom, Jean Rogers, Donnie and Ronnie Beck, that's their mom. Donnie Beck, who was in Tower of Power, that's his mom. And they used to have, my dad played with them. Everybody played with the Rogers. And so I have distinct memories of hanging out at the Rogers house, watching jam sessions with my dad, Buddy Miles, people like that. And that was Carol's mom, and Carol was on the scene too. But when we were kids, I barely paid any attention to Carol. Her brother Keith was kind of a friend of mine. Where is he? The Pele is in the picture here. On the back, you can see him in particular dressed as a doctor. There he is, Pele. I asked Carol about, when I was working with Carol, I asked her about these years working with Sergio Mendez, because she also got to play, she's also on a Dori Kaimi album, one of my favorites, his background singer. And so I asked her about that stuff, and it's like, the professional life of a musician is charmed and extremely hard at the same time. So it was, cool to know that, but that's way out of order. Sergio Mendez, hope I can find some room for it. That's what I got for you today, folks. It's funny, and I always forget this, and it always happens to me. I blew out last month on records, and sure enough, this month it's insurance time. Pockets are feeling empty all of a sudden. But that's the way it goes. May as well enjoy the money best I can, okay? It's a tool, so try to enjoy it when I can. Last thing I want to share is people, a lot of people, life is hard and not getting any easier, and it's not going to get any easier. But I see people on social media reaching out, crying out, cries for help. My buddy Jake in chemicals is going through a manic phase, real bad right now. So he is very public with his mind, and it's like my heart goes out to him and other folks because the answer isn't outside of you. People are looking desperately for someone to say something or do something to help them. And it's really not there. I mean, there's things, but ultimately, if anything changes or gets better, it will be because of a shift inside of the person. But I see people desperately reaching out, wanting others to do something, to save them, to change them, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. I just want to encourage people to deal with that reality, which is happiness comes from within. If you're not struggling with physical ailments, which can color everything, not being physically well, the main challenge is the mind, our thoughts, our perception, the way that we frame our lives. It's not easy to change, but that's where the power lies. Last night as I was laying in bed, I'm thinking about couples lately, the gig that I played with chemicals, just observing people, and most everyone in the band is coupled up. And I'm not jealous because I'm not a couple type of guy. I've had girlfriends. I've never had a boyfriend. I've tried to. That was a disaster. But trying to have girlfriends has been almost just as much of a disaster. I like sleeping alone. I don't like sleeping with anyone. And I don't have a track of thought in my mind that I'm lonely, that I'm looking for someone, that I need someone. That seems to be a track of thinking in a lot of people, a desire. It's not here. I'm really okay. And I check myself every now and then and say, are you fooling yourself? Are you really depressed and running away from how you really feel? And I'm happy to say I'm not. Cheers, people. Let me stop here. Let me know what you think.